Cheryl mentioned there, like, I don't want to finish this on a bad note, but like if you died tomorrow, like would the farm continue? And you could think about any person in that business. Like if Cheryl wasn't there, I didn't know how to do the books. Like I was stuffed. Is there someone else in the business that knows how to do that? Is there someone else in the business that knows how to run the operations? So to think about it in that way, that if you weren't here tomorrow, and reality is things do happen. So how can we set our business up that we can think about things like that?
Welcome to the Profitable Farmer podcast, where we share stories and tips to help you run a better farming business and create your very own freedom farm. If you're looking to work smarter and not harder in your farm business, welcome. You're in the right place. G'day everyone, welcome again to Profitable Farmer. I hope this finds you incredibly well. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite a while, and it was wonderful to connect with a few of our coaches a couple of episodes ago. It gives me incredible pleasure to connect again and introduce Tim and Cheryl Freak to you again. Cheryl's been a coach with FOA for some time and is now our coach to FOA's alumni. And Tim Freak is part of our benchmarking and analytics team. They've been with FOA since its inception now 10 years ago. And incredibly, Tim and Cheryl, they're an amazing couple, but they spend up to 6 months of their year in the FOA caravan on farm with our members, having a full day alignment session as part of our members' 3-year journey with us. And we'll touch on that, and I can't wait to share Tim and Cheryl's broader story around how it is that they've managed to achieve that. But they're just wonderful people. They add such incredible value across our community, to our members and to our team. And it is, just great to connect with them again and to share their stories. So Tim and Cheryl, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hi, Hutch. Great to see you. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, good day, Hutch. It's good to connect again.
Thanks, Tim. So, Cheryl, where do we find you today?
Today, we're sitting in a caravan park at Port Fairy, working through a few internet things this morning and, juggling a few things around. But, it's good to be here. It's a nice spot. We've got the weekend here, so we'll chill out a little bit over the weekend and, look forward to some farm visits next week.
Perfect. And how's the caravan and what's your outlook for the next few months, Cheryl?
So we are in here for about 6 months. So it's a really good thing that we like each other because basically we spend 24 hours a day together, living together, working together, and there's squeezing past each other in the van. But no, we're really looking forward to the next 6 months. We are heading from here through Victoria and then up through New South Wales into Queensland. We've actually got one farm visit hopefully we'll get to do in Northern Territory and 2 in New Zealand this year. And there's other places as well, but there are other coaches this year doing some of the others. So very fun year ahead.
Perfect. Cheryl and Tim, how's the caravan and how is it to be nomadic and to be in the FOA caravan and touring for such a significant part of your year?
Yeah, it's a real privilege, to be honest, to be able to do this job. It doesn't feel like a job to me. Being a farmer, visiting other farmers all around Australia, get to asking any question about the farm, the finances, and getting tours around farms. And we're very diverse in FOA with all the different agricultural businesses that we've got. So it's just such an amazing opportunity to learn so much about every business that we get to. So it's an absolute privilege.
And I can't understate, and I do just want to acknowledge the impact that you have for those conversations that you get to have on farm with our members. We just constantly hear just the significant breakthroughs and outcomes that come from your visit to them. So thank you so much, Tim and Cheryl. How do you reflect on your farm visits last year? How do you reflect on 2024 and the farm visits that you did across Australia?
guess, yeah, like Australia being such a big country, there's such a diverse weather conditions right across Australia. So last year was a classic example of that. Like Western Australia had a good year, Queensland, Northern New South Wales had a good year, Southern Australia had a terrible year, like one of the worst in history. So seeing the people that we visit, going through the seasonal conditions, like it's just so variable across Australia. But then a couple of years ago, it was exactly the opposite way around. So, it's amazing how it balances itself out in Australia. But that's sort of what we're dealing with. And yeah, last year was incredible. Like connections we make with the people. Quite often we walk in the door. We haven't met these people sometimes now, and we walk in the door, you shake the hand, you walk out the door, and it's a massive big hug. So you build this relationship over the day, and yeah, it's not too often that people get some stranger walk into their house, not that we're strangers, but walk into their house and have this really open conversation about absolutely everything that's going on in their business, everything that's going on in their personal relationships, their finances, and feeling like they can talk openly about it.
Tim, I think there are some conversations that we don't have on Saturday afternoon over a barbecue with our local mates, and we don't talk about it the local sporting grounds or pubs, and we probably don't even talk about with family. I reflected on this morning walking, that there are conversations we probably don't have with our agronomists, consultants and advisors, accountants and bank managers. How do you describe the depth of the conversations that you do get to have on farm with our members?
It's always very in-depth because I guess we build trust. I guess we go into the people's house, sit around the kitchen table, and then we spend the first hour and a half just asking questions, like to really find out where they're at. And like we're just inquisitive by nature, so that's just our normal conversation is asking 1,000 questions. So we've got a license to do that. So that's really good, suits us fine. And then I guess it's just finding out exactly where they're at, because I can tell you every single farm has got something going on. And it doesn't matter how shiny it looks on the outside. And, everyone's dealing with succession at some point in time. Everyone's dealing with financial difficulties. Everyone's dealing, with something, employees and whatever it might be, seasonal conditions. So, yeah, so we just meet people where they're at. We spend all that time. We go out and do a farm tour and, go for a drive around the farm. And I always love that because people feel really comfortable in the ute. Or the four-wheel drive, driving around, and the conversation that you hear, and you can really sort of tell how passionate they are about what they're doing and their plans and what they're thinking about and what's happened in that paddock and what's happening with the stock. And yeah, so you really pick up on that, and that's a really good part of the being on farm is getting that feeling of what's going on farm. So then we come back in the afternoon and then we sort of dive deeper into wherever the most relevant thing that's going on for these people at the time.
Thanks, Tim. So, Cheryl, what is your process when you go on farm and you do set up for these days? What's the approach that you take?
Yeah, so I think it varies a lot depending on what's going on people's farms. But we do have sort of a bit of a structure that we follow, which is, the morning is spent just trying to really understand their situation. And people say to us that, it's been really helpful, but we often sort of think, well, we don't know what we do. But I think one of the biggest things that we do is give people an opportunity to share that and share where they're at and, and just really listen. And I think that's a gift in itself. It's not that often that you have the chance to really in-depth share what's going on in your world. So that's the first part of it, as Tim said before, and then the farm visit. And then in the afternoon, we just work through whatever seems to be the biggest thing holding them back at the time. So, and it can be lots of little things, or it might be one big thing, depending on what's going on. But so we work through that, and we're so lucky with farm owners. We're equipped with all sorts of tools to allow us to do that. Greg Johnson's put so much work into the toolbox, we call it, which has all sorts of analytical tools. So, if there's financial things or decisions to be made, analytical things that need to be done, we've got a toolbox of tools that we can work through. Other times it's just discussing some of the issues around, well, just all sorts of things, relationships, team, time management's a big one, mindset is a big one, all sorts of things. And then we finish the day, normally have a bit of a chance to chat through how they're finding the course and any issues that are coming up there. And we also spend a bit of time, most times, having a bit of a look at their work-life balance or just balance in life in general. And I guess it's one of the things we love about Farm Owners Academy is that it's not just let's go out and make more profit. It's about, let's have a good, fun, happy life. And so when we do spend a bit of time just looking at that holistic picture and how they can get more fun back into their life, really. So, and at the end of the day, the clients are then asked to summarise the day and share that back with us. And it also goes into their mastermind group that they're involved in. So that's a chance for them to share their learnings with their mastermind and their coach, and also then be held accountable for the actions that they've said they're going to do. So, and actually I should have said part of that process is, like during the day, is that we talk about what's their next most important actions, and we get them to pop them into their Clarity Action Plan, which is the planning tool that we all use, and put them in. They might be something to work on in the next 12 months, it might be in the next 3 years, or it might be in the next 90 days. So it's just about identifying what the next priorities are and where they fit into that whole planning process. So yeah, I don't know, it seems to work.
I was just going to add, Hutch, that like you mentioned, the conversations have at the footy club. You don't have these conversations at the footy club where someone can come into your business and have a really holistic view of everything that you're doing. Like if you think about it, it just doesn't happen. Like you get little bits and pieces of people come into your life, but for us to have that job that we come in and have this really holistic view of what's actually happening in your life, it's a pretty rare thing, I would think. I don't think no other farmer would actually have that opportunity to have that really holistic view of everything that's going on in their business and their life. So I think that's probably what really makes this quite a unique course. And we're just a small cog in the whole FOA wheel. You put all these pieces together, but that's just another little part of it.
Just going to say a big part of the day for it to work is the willingness of the people that we see to be really vulnerable. And we do it in the second year of the course. So people have had a chance to really open up with their mastermind group and coaches. And so by the time we get there, they're used to being very open, I guess. And wow, it's amazing what you can learn when you are prepared to, really open up. And yeah, so I think that's a very big secret of it all.
I was going to comment on that it is in their second year. So they've set down a strategic plan. They've done their first benchmark. They've probably had their first debrief around their benchmark, Tim, and there's no doubt that you being on farm and helping them understand their benchmarks more fully, and then, as an outcome of your time with them, to strengthen and bolster the quality of their strategic plan and their direction. It's perfect timing, isn't it, to help them really sort of set down a strong pathway to move forward with substance.
Yeah, I think the timing does work well within the whole program. So, yeah, we have done a couple of little bit earlier and they haven't been quite ready for it. So, yeah, and everyone moves at a different pace too, like being open to change and all that sort of thing. Like everyone's at quite different. And some people just take longer. They needs to be their idea, and they hear this same idea 5 times from 5 different people, and then by the third year they've actually come up with this amazing idea that's their idea. So that's the way it works. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for just how respectful you are and just how challenging you are in the questions that you do ask. And, the wisdom that you bring to the table when you arrive is really significant. And I know everyone is getting huge value. I think a lot of farmers feel like that the issues, Cheryl, that you mentioned are unique to them. You talk about cash flow and you talk about team and you talk about relationships and you talk about not having balance and other things. And often, people aren't open to talking about those constructs because they think that that those problems are unique to them. What would your comment be to people who think that that's the case when I think so many of our members are experiencing similar challenges?
Yeah, no, it's very, very true. We do live in a little bubble out on our farms. So I think that's one of the really big bonuses of the whole Farm Owners Academy program. So, yeah, I think that's one of the big bonuses of the whole thing is it's bringing people together and sharing common experiences. And I think for when we go in, it's just that having someone come in with an outside perspective, I suppose, and, it's that look of surprise that people have when we go, actually, do you know what? There's a lot of others in the same boat, especially, things like financials, I suppose, and benchmarking. And, people get their report back and they go, oh, it's not as good as what we'd hoped. And, and we can reassure them that they're not on their own there. Like, it's a tough season out there and everyone's struggling. Like, so, yeah, I do think that outside perspective and just a reminder that, things are not as bad as what it starts to build up in their mind. I think it's very easy to lose perspective when we're on our own. And at the end of the day, most farmers are, very well set up. If everything else failed and they had to sell up, they'd still be probably way better off than a lot of people who, work all their lives and then might end up with owning a house at the end. So we forget that. We forget how lucky we are, I think.
It's a great comment. Tim, do you have a comment there on that construct that sometimes we think that we're alone?
Yeah, I think like as country communities, we used to have lots of little towns everywhere. Now, farmers have bought out farmers and farms have got bigger. So we don't have that community like we used to. In some regions, they still do have that where it's maybe a little bit more intensive. But generally, like communities aren't like they were 30 years ago. They don't have that community there. Like it's a very different world we live in the regional areas now. So I think, we're not getting that same connection. And in some areas, it's really quite competitive between neighbours and, buying that next block of land. And so, no one tells anyone anything. Whereas people have come into FOA and it's really refreshing in a way that they've got this community that actually cares about each other. And not saying that people don't care about each other in country areas, they certainly do. But it's at a real intimate level. And that is really refreshing. So we've got a community of people now that's, doesn't matter where we are, we can connect on Zoom or whatever it might be anywhere in Australia. So people are building these amazing connections that people can talk openly and honestly about anything. And I think that's what's so unique about this course now, because we've probably lost a little bit of that within our regional areas around Australia.
It's a great point. So please know you're not alone, and that the issues that you're facing, they're unique to you, but they're not issues that we haven't helped other people through or that aren't able to be worked through with the right people around you. So just a shout out if that's helpful to anyone listening. Tim and Cheryl, as you reflect on last year, what are some of the wins and achievements you see our members nailing?
Well, I think because it was a really tough year in a lot of regions last year, like to me, this is where we get our best learnings. Like what's that saying? When the tide's out, you see you swimming naked. So it's how we've managed this really tough season. And some people have come through with flying colours. Some people really battled. And probably the message that I've taken out of this is, what did we do in those really good years previously to set ourselves up for this poorer year that comes? Because the climate is, whether we like it or not, I really believe it's getting more variable with the highs, extremes, weather events. So how do we set our businesses up to get through these tougher seasons? Because they're going to come, no doubt about it. We only have to look at the history of what's happening. So, and I guess that's sort of some of the things we sort of talk to people about is your business model. It's not broken. It's a great business model, and reassuring them that actually what you're doing is fine. We've had some low commodity prices. We've had some seasonal events that have happened totally out of your control. Like, all we can do as farmers is manage the things that we can manage and do it to the best of our ability. And if we do that year in, year out, I can guarantee you it's going to work if you've got the right business model over time. And like, just personally on our own farm, we had a tough year, really probably decile 1 rainfall. So, but I feel like we eked everything out of the farm we possibly could have and did the totally best thing. If we break even, I'll be over the moon. So that's the example. But I feel 100% confident that our business model is good. So I'm not going to change anything because over time they'll work out. So I think when we do these farm visits, people, we just reassure them that what they're doing their business model is good, or sometimes it's not, and sometimes we do need to make changes. But it's really been shown up in this tough seasonal year. So, what are the things we need to look at? It's a challenge at the moment with direct expenses and overhead expenses. They've all gone up. So sometimes it's the lack of scale, land prices going up, machinery's gone up. So, how do we balance that? These are all the questions everyone's asking at the moment. So we work through that, and there's no magic bullets in any of these things. So everyone wants the magic bullet, but I can tell you there's not. How we manage ourselves and the mindset side of things probably, and that's probably, I don't know, Cheryl will probably comment on that side of it.
Cheryl, I hear people say that they don't know where they'd be in these tough times without the support that the FOA community and our coaching team and others provide. What's your comment there?
Yeah, it is very powerful having that support around you and just having someone to talk to as much as anything. But I think the other thing that Farm Owners does really, really well is works on helps people work on their mindset. So, and to me, that's the foundation of all of this, is just, getting to that stage where you can control your thoughts around some of these things that are happening. There's so much of what, Tim was just talking about is out of our control. So it's about learning to just focus on what we can control and about, the way we talk to ourselves. And, I'm just thinking about some of the visits that we've had, and sometimes there's just tiny little tweaks in the way people talk to themselves. We can catch them, talking about time scarcity or, things, how frustrating life is and all the frustrations and, all those sorts of things. And those tiny little tweaks where you catch yourself saying those things and turn it into a bit more positive language can be incredibly powerful. So I think the learnings that Farm Owners provide in terms of, helping people to manage those tough times, and it's not just financial tough times, there's lots of tough times, but it's that constant reinforcement that Farm Owners provides in terms of how you can manage that from a mindset perspective, I think is incredibly powerful.
Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, thoughts are things, aren't they? They're real. And if we leave them unchecked, they can be damaging. And so, to your point, learning how to self-regulate, become self-aware of that inner narrative and, change the story and to change the narrative, especially in tough times, and then learning the practices and habits that can support you to remain resilient in adversity. They're just such important tools that perhaps a lot of us didn't get to learn at school or at uni or sort of in our younger years. What's your comment there?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Over our lifetime of farming, we have done a lot of courses, and this is the first thing that we've come across that, mindset is a really big focus. And, to me, that's what really sets it apart. So, as farmers, and we see this as we go around, people are really hard on themselves. We all tend to be very hard on ourselves. And I guess it's that thing about looking at the gain, not the gap. We talk about the gap and the gain. And as farmers, we're always seeing what we did wrong last year and, what hasn't gone well and where we want to be and we're not there yet. Whereas, we can come in and we can go, hang on a minute, guys, stop, have a look. Look at what you've achieved, what you're doing here. And also, and just build their confidence again, just to go, these are the things you're doing well. And, you are doing some things well. Even if everything else is going wrong, there's always some things that they're doing well. So, and, it's so powerful to focus on those things rather than what's not working.
Cheryl, I spoke to Tracy in a previous podcast about identity and the fact that we're not our bank balance and that we're not the results that our farm are achieving in the moment. How do you suggest people might create some separation between the farm's performance and their sense of self?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think, I don't know, I guess I don't know other businesses that well, but we do become very much our farms and our business and it becomes everything. And then that becomes a real issue, particularly when it becomes time to transition out. So because, suddenly there's nothing else. So yeah, I think there's lots of things in there, but I think, really important to become aware of that and to start to allow yourself to enjoy life and live life and do fun things, and it doesn't have to just be farming. So we were at a workshop back a while ago, and they were talking about, from age 30, 40, we should be starting to think about what are our hobbies outside of the business that we're in, so that we're not a pain to the next generation when they come through. So, and for a lot of farmers, farming is their hobby, but it then leaves nothing when they have to move out. So it's okay to have more than one hobby. So
prioritise them.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right. And that is something that, again, in farming, the farms tend to always be the priority. And so that's one of the great things about having someone step in and go, what are the other important things in your life, and let's make room for them in your life.
I think it's, as farmers, like most farmers, you just about call them a workaholic. Like, we really are, because there's always, you live on farm, you live at the job, you can, you never get off farm, so there's always something to do. There's always a tree on the fence, there's always a broken wire, whatever it might be, there's always something to do. So I think we just get addicted to farming in a way, that we've got this addiction that it's a really hard habit to break, to, just to sit, do something with the family on the Sunday afternoon is really hard for a lot of people. So, it takes a lot of time to get away, because it's that really, really important job we have to do out there.
Tim, can I ask how you made that shift? Because I imagine that you found it hard to be at home and not look at that tree on the fence and let it be okay to have some downtime, or, to focus on a hobby instead. How did you make that shift?
Yeah, I was one of those. I was addicted to farming people that head down, tail up, and just so focused. And I look back on that now, and it's probably one of my regrets that I probably didn't. If I knew what I knew now after going through FOA, I would have done things very, quite differently. But I didn't know any different at the time. We were just doing the best we knew at the time, which is fine. So, but yeah, I guess when I got opened up to thinking differently about what does the future look like, that's when, we really started to explore what does freedom look like to us, and, having to retrain yourself to do something else. And, Cheryl's been always very good at booking holidays for us, and just then you've got to make it happen, you panic. But yeah, so, getting off farm is the best thing you can ever do, seriously, because just, you need that reset. To get off farm and reset. And, for me, it's been a challenge, but it's amazing sort of what you can do if you actually do open yourself up to give yourself a little bit of space. And, a lot of this is about getting the team around you to be able to do that. And I totally understand that some people, that's a challenge, but, if you really set your vision, that's what you want to do, you can achieve anything.
Thanks, Tim. So you mentioned something before. For those people that are in that decile 1 environment and have had a really challenging year and find themselves second-guessing themselves and questioning their business model, what would you say to them, Tim?
Well, probably the most important thing is really understanding your numbers in the first place, like that that your business model isn't broken. So, and that's where we've benchmarked for 30, 40 years, whatever. It's a long time. So you get confidence in your business, after numerous years of really understanding your numbers. And I really, because I'm in the analytics team, we bang on about numbers all the time, but getting that real understanding about the numbers is such a critical. We're all business owners of multi-million-dollar businesses these days. So we need to take this seriously. We got a serious business here. Like, it's not a hobby anymore. All right. So yeah, understand your numbers, understand, your cost of production, all the decisions that you're making. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that really helps getting through those tougher periods. And cash flow is a massive challenge for a lot of people at the moment. So it's about how do we, like I mentioned before, how do we set ourselves up that we can sort of withstand these decile 1 sort of seasons to build that buffer into our system. And I think, so if you can get your business to that stage where when you have a tough year, that you're actually looking for the opportunities that are presenting themselves. Like, everything goes in cycles, as we know. So to me, like, just as a little example, like buying machinery, like how many people had some 3 really good years, in the early 20s there, and, machinery went ridiculously priced, price of second-hand machinery was crazy. You go and buy machinery now, there'll be dealers out there screaming at you to, so how do we get our business in that position that we can take advantage of, that these cycles that we're always it's going to happen. So that's probably a really good message.
Learn from this chapter so that you're ready to be counter-cyclical the next time there's a downturn or a lean year. Yep, great comment.
Can I add to that, Hutch? I feel like for people who are in it at the moment, though, that's great to be thinking bigger picture for down the track. And I do feel like for people who are in it at the moment, it is about getting that support around you and, not burying your head in the sand. It's very easy to, when times get tough, just not even want to look at the numbers because they're not going to look good. So I think it's really important to, reach out, get some help, work through the numbers with somebody, work through what it's telling you, be proactive, get to the bank early, all those sorts of things. I think the most important thing is be proactive, get into it and sort it out. So
thanks, Cheryl. Get the right people around you, get a budget in place, know your cash flow, be proactive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned before, Tim, there's rarely a silver bullet. Often we look for the one big change that's going to solve our problem. It's often 4 or 5 very clever tactics combined that can make the change that you need. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no silver bullets out there. Sometimes you get very lucky with yield and price comes together, but that doesn't happen that often. So it really is about all the little things and all the little things that we can manage. And it gets down to just the price you buy, checking your insurance, go and get another quote, all those little things, and they do accumulate over time and getting it right. But the biggest thing I always sort of talk to people about is timing, getting the timing right. That is something that is in our control. We say it's a 1%er, but it's more than a 1%er. It is everything. Timing in agriculture it doesn't matter what we're talking about, doing things on time. So if we haven't got the team around us to be able to do that, well, let's look at other ways that we can sort of manage that. Or what are we doing that's, we're not prioritising that. So it's timing and prioritisation of the most important thing, to get things done.
Thanks, Tim. So I want to change gears or direction if we could. Somehow Tim and Cheryl get to spend 6 months in the FOA caravan helping other farming families with a really significant and successful farm business of your own. You've created a freedom farm and it's taken years to pull that together. Would you mind just describing your farm and how it is that you get to achieve 6 months away from it to focus on helping others?
Yeah, I guess we started FOA and it was 10 years ago this year. So, and like I said earlier, we were head down, tail up. We'd probably bought another little block of land here and there and just kept working harder and harder and harder and probably didn't employ enough people. And we sort of come to FOA and they talked about this freedom business and it sounds pretty cool. And so anyway, we did our 10-year vision and thought, let's have this freedom. Well, we didn't know what freedom meant to us at that point in time, but a bit more freedom for us would have been good. So I guess we just started exploring, well, what are the opportunities? And obviously our children at that point in time weren't interested in being on our farm. So, but we didn't want to wait until they were 30 and decided they wanted to come back to the farm. And there was no pressure by us either way. So we thought, well, what do we need to do in the meantime? We don't want to wait to get to 10 years. How can we sort of set our farm up that, still have the opportunity for our own children to come back in? So we went down the track and I guess we think a little bit differently. We could have got a farm manager, but I guess I've seen farms with farm managers and they've come and they've gone and, you just train one up and then they leave. And so we thought, well, if we could bring people into the business that had some skin in the game, what does that look like? So we explored that and come up with a way of bringing people into the farm. So we had a young couple that were working, did a bit of casual work with us, our fencing contractors in the local district, and we just loved the way they went about their business, and they just started from nothing and just looked at constantly improving it and doing a fantastic job of that. And so we approached them to, would you like to join our business? And they actually did work with us for quite a while, during seeding and harvest, and we knew them very well. And we approached them if they would like to become a shareholder in our business. So when we say our business, that's our operations business. So operations is machinery and livestock, and Cheryl and I own all the land. So anyway, we went down that track of bringing them in, and we've actually got everything valued, and they're a 25% shareholder. We vendor finance them into the business. So, and the way it works, everyone gets paid commercial wages that works. And then if there's profit left over at the end of the day, that their 25% share comes back to us to pay off their share of their loan. So, and that, to me, it's giving them incentive to make profit in the business. So I guess go forward, I think it was about 6 years that we sort of, of our 10-year vision, and we brought them into the business. Then obviously there's a transition of management that you work your way through, which it's been challenging for me, to be honest, because you're the one leading the team, and then next thing there's someone else coming in, and you're going through this change, and so I guess that was a bit for me to open up to saying, oh, what's my role? We create this freedom, and so then that's where obviously farm owners, I had this opportunity to start doing a bit of work with them. So that's been a really good thing for me, and it's been a transition there. But bringing business partners in now, they basically, this year is the first year I'm actually not going to be home for seeding and harvest, and so it's been a transition, and it's a 10-year vision that we had, and we're basically here this year. I'm really off farm, but we're still very involved strategically in the business, but not hands on anymore. Pretty well. So, but I can still go back to the farm any day and help out if I want to. So, and that's been our choice to do that. So,
thanks, Tim. Great comments. So you farm at Kermanduke in the South Australian Mallee, which is low rainfall mixed farming. Cheryl, can you describe what the business looked like 10 years ago? What was your reality back then?
I guess my word that I often use is it felt like it was chaos. But, as Tim said, we had just sort of gradually grown over the years and probably just didn't employ enough. And so we just, each time we bought another block, we just put our heads down and worked a little bit harder. So it was pretty busy. I was well and truly ready to step back. So, when we first joined farm owners, the idea of, I guess, the age that we're at, it was perfect timing for us. And the idea of potentially in 10 years' time at that stage it was our 10-year goal to be able to step, back so that we were not as relied on in the business. It just sounded awesome to me. So, I feel just so lucky with the way it's all panned out. The young couple that we've brought in, I guess one of our dreams, through our farming, we've been given lots of opportunities along the way. We've felt very grateful for the opportunities we've had. And one of our dreams was, kind of to pay that forward, to be able to give other people opportunities in agriculture. So, to bring this young couple in and give them that opportunity, ticks a big box for me. But and also then to watch them and their growth and see, they've done the most amazing job. They're exceptional human beings, and they've just, really stepped up to the plate and, doing a fantastic job, given that they've come from not very much experience at all, and over a very short period of time they're now running the full operation with, all of our team, and, we've got an amazing team as well. So I just feel so lucky. I feel so grateful to farm owners that they came along when they did, and it was perfect timing for us. And our life is so different now to what it would have been if we hadn't had Farm Owners Academy come into our lives. We would still be there, head down, tail up, really.
Probably just explain a little bit about our farm hutch. It's a mixed farm. We're sort of 350 mil rainfall, Kermanduke, which is 150 kilometres southeast of Adelaide. And it's just I always say we drive around Australia, it's probably some of the worst soil types I see around Australia. We got limestone, sand, salt, but what it is. So we just try and maximise each sort of land class to its capabilities. And I think we do like sheep, like merinos, and like for wool and meat, and cropping as well. And we integrate all that together. So it's a very integrated farm. Like we cut hay, we do silage, we feed like lambs. There's a lot of stuff going on. So a lot of stuff for new people to come into the business to get their head around. Like it's not just I guess one of our things of creating a freedom farm for us was to simplify. So we did simplify things in a way, and then as time's gone on with our new team getting their head around the business, like it's their journey now, and they've intensified things again. So for us, it's been just great to be mentors now and watching them. And like we're just 100% supportive. And the key to making all this work for us is our annual, quarterly, meetings that we still, are a very big part of, and that we know what's going on the farm. I don't have to know what's going on the day to day, but we've got our plan for the year, and if nothing changes really, so that's how it works. And if we didn't have that structure in place, you couldn't do that. And that's where I just see this. And I always say to people, if our kids came into the business and they've had the opportunity, it's looking like they probably won't, which is fine, and I would do exactly the same business model with their own children. Like they'll basically buy into the business, and they're buying in with making profit out of the business. It's not coming out of their pockets as such. It's just incentive. And we run a really tight budget, so learning about budgeting, making really sound decisions on the machinery that we buy, all those sorts of things is just critical. We can't make it work. The farm has to pay us a lease, so we have to pay lease, we pay full commercial wages, and then we want to make some profit at the end of the day. So we have to farm as good as we possibly can to make that work, and it does work. We make it work, and it's really a good business. So, yeah, I think that's some of the key things, like going down this track, is making sure you've got a really profitable business at the start, so you can pay a lease and can pay proper wages and all that. So I think it's just, something that's really important.
We talk about the fact that business model trumps hard work every time. It's one of those concepts that we sort of hammer home and really try and help people optimize their business model. I just think you've been so pioneering in this in our industry. I find this really interesting because if you look at accounting firms and vet practices and physiotherapy firms outside of agriculture, inviting junior talent in as shareholders is normal practice. So that vet or that accounting firm or that law firm or that physiotherapy practice, they rent premises. And then when they find good talent, after 2 or 3 or 4 years, there's a career path that can include having a small share in the success of the business. So it's the model that you're talking about is quite commonplace and it's proven, isn't it, in other industries. I think it's a cracking model, but well done for achieving it so strongly in agriculture. But we should be putting our farms under pressure to pay a lease, shouldn't we? And the landlords, the owners of the land, should get a lease for the return they get from their asset. But then having the business separated from the ownership and then having people come in as shareholders to help you grow the business, it's worked really well for you, hasn't it? And how does that compare to that comment you made before, Tim, about employing a farm manager and hoping that they stay?
Yeah, I just love the skin in the game piece of it. That the more effort they put in, the more reward they get, basically. And look, you can come up with bonus systems and all that. And to me, they're a bit complicated sometimes, the bonus system. So and you're not really tied. So we. Like for us, this is a long-term arrangement. Like it goes into the next generation type thing. So, and that's the assurity that we get that our farm's being managed well. And like for us now, we're leasing our farm out. Okay, we could lease it out to anyone if we decide to go down that track. But like we're still in control of the management of the land. Making sure that everything is happening how we'd like it to. We're not worried about that. So. I think, I just love the model, and I think the way land prices are going at the moment, and for people to basically grow a business, to be a young farmer to try to get into farming, it's very, very difficult unless you've got a lot of money behind you. So I really think we need to have a bit of a generational sort of change and shift in mindset of how we actually farm land going forward because of the land values, the problem we're facing these days. So. And for people to expect they're going to get a 5 or 6% return on their land as a leasee now, like it's not viable because the land values have gone up too much. So you see some corporates come in and like they were wanting that a few years ago. Now they're coming back to like 2 and 3% of land value, and they rely on capital growth in the land over time to make their money. So we really do need to think about this as two separate businesses. And we're owning land, that's a land business, and we're just like you could own real estate. And think about it like that. Or you have a farming business that you make money out of farming and, the operation side of the business. If we can't make money out of farming, well, why are we farming? Like in the longer term, we've got to understand the highs and the lows of that. There's the ups and the downs, but in a longer term, it has to be a profitable business. If we just rely on capital growth of our land, well, you might as well just go and lease your land out and go on holidays, really. So we need to think of it quite differently, and I think that's going to change now with the values of land around. They're not going to come down. So, how do we farm, to make a profit? And obviously you need a certain amount of scale these days to do that, and that it's a real challenge at the moment for a lot of people is how to get that scale, because we're seeing all the overhead expenses go up. So we sort of talk about, well, you need a business that turns over $1 million, like to get enough scale in your business to justify all the overhead expenses. Just running a family now, and you need a business that turns over $1 million. Otherwise, if you're not, it's going to be a battle. So how do we do that? So that's the challenge.
Tim, you mentioned that you've benchmarked for 30 years, and I know that the FOA benchmarking process was key for you to make some changes to your farm business 10 years ago that have been pivotal, including sort of really driving the performance of the sheep enterprise and other things. We talk about the fact that revenue is how we measure scale. Would you mind just giving us an insight? How big was the business 10 years ago, and what were the enterprises, and what have you achieved over 10 years for applying what you have and introducing that model that you've talked about?
Yeah, look, back 10 years ago, we were share farming potentially probably nearly 50% of what we were doing. So we got out of one of those share farming arrangements, and then it took another year or so. We actually kept the same team for a year or so, having this belief that we would sort of, replace that. And so we bought another farm in that period. So the scale now, I think we farm, close to 5,000 hectares, and some of that is still share farm. So we've got good scale, and I guess we've been lucky. We're in an area where land values have been, relatively low, and I guess we'd sort of, so that's been good in a way. But it all gets down to how much money, return you can make off of that land. So, and I think when we started with FOA, because we've been benchmarking, but not going probably into the in depth, and Greg's like the guru with the sheep side of things. So I guess that's sort of why we initially sort of got involved with Greg, to learn more about sheep management, really, because my dad had passed away, and I thought, oh geez, I've got to manage the sheep now. So that was my, we've always been learning. So we've actually incorporated sheep into we were sort of continuously cropping with canola, and we used to get frosted and things. So, and then looking at our numbers over the years, one good year in 5 of canola, and then so we'd sort of analysed that and thought, well, what if we go down the track and we actually use like a multi-species crop as part of our cropping rotation? And so the sheep, we had to build up our sheep numbers to get our stocking rates high enough. So we actually utilised the sheep as part of our cropping rotation. So we have vetch in that. So that's like our legume in the system. So it's a really low risk strategy that as you don't get frosted, the dry springs don't affect you. It's a bit lower cost. So, but sheep are a really important part of our cropping rotation. That's why it's really very integrated, and there's a lot going on. But it gets down to anyone can do that, but then it's how do you make the most out of the grazing management? And we've made so many changes within our sheep enterprise. We used to run mobs of 200 and 300, in their age groups back years ago. Now we run mobs of 1,000, and it's just, and it's intensive, in out of paddocks as quick as you can. And we've increased the amount of fodder that we can grow because we actually run more sheep. It sort of doesn't make sense, but the more sheep you run, if you get the grazing management right, you grow more pasture. So it's about how we utilise the pasture the best. Generally, most farms don't utilise pasture well enough, and we waste a lot. If you think about your pasture utilisation, how much you can grow to actually how much the sheep eat, we waste a lot. So, and that's been another thing. We brought silage into that. So now we feed that in confinement. We have confinement. We've changed many things, and part of that is we don't want to destroy our land. So if we haven't got feed in the paddocks, they don't stay out there and wreck the land. They go into confinement. So all this has come from looking at the numbers over the years and really delving into the sheep. And I really believe that sheep can be a really profitable enterprise. As long as you do get the stocking rates up high enough, and I guess it's been the benchmarking side of things that has helped that. So And a mixed farm works well in our environment. It's not for everyone, but that suits us. And we've identified non-productive land that doesn't, we can't crop. Where we can crop good crops, we'll crop it and use the sheep as part of the rotation. Where we're not productive, we've sown them down to permanent pastures. We actually have a lot of kikuyu that we've sown, so it's really easy care, low cost, so which is quite different. People think that's a weed, but for us it works really well. So yeah, that's been part of that journey, and we always sort of talk about in FOA like trying to get this 30% net profit. So then if we can get that, we can cover all of our expenses, we can have money to spend on capital, finance costs, and that side of the business. So like, our business has been really successful at doing that. And like I said earlier, that if we come through close to breaking even this year, I'll be over the moon. So yeah, and that's fine. Like we're going to have years like that. So that's what gives me a lot of confidence in agriculture going forward.
Hutch, can I add to that just quickly? Talking about farm visits, we need to give credit where credit's due. Like Greg came and did our farm visit, and he, straight away pointed out how much wasted feed we had there, which we thought we were managing very carefully, making sure there's enough feed for down the track. How much wasted feed, and helped us see that we could grow kikuyu, and like it was just that outside perspective again, and that we could up our stocking rates significantly and all that sort of stuff, which that was a big breakthrough for us. And then through Farm Owners Academy, we've been exposed. We actually went to Kangaroo Island and did a tour around there and saw what high intensity sheep owners do, sheep farmers do, and yeah, so it's just that exposure to other people, other industries, just, it's so powerful for us. We're so grateful that all of that came into our lives.
Well, I've learned so much from the dairy industry about their grazing management. Like they're masters at it. Like, we can learn so much from all these other industries, and that is the absolute beauty of FOA, that we get exposed to all that, and we can delve into the numbers, and we can talk to these people about how they graze that, and silage and all those sorts of things that we've sort of brought into our business. Like I really think we need to farm differently to how we farmed 20 years ago. Like especially in the livestock side of things. Like there's a lot of precision in the cropping, but like livestock's been left behind. So how do we take that to the next level? And that is the challenge in our business, that we're super excited about it. Like we're really positive about it.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, Cheryl. So Cheryl, you mentioned that it was chaotic 10 years ago, and Tim, I think you said you were addicted to farming. How do you go from that to having a freedom farm that is structured, systemised, resourced, under management, and practically how have you gone about making that happen and then letting go of all of those tasks, functions, responsibilities? Tim, can I get you to speak first about that journey that you've had to go from being technical farmer to now being the director and owner of a successful and farm that's under management?
Yeah, for one, I guess it's been a plan. So it's a plan. It was a 10-year plan, and probably got back to 6 years, because we achieved it probably faster than we actually thought we would. So it's been quite structured in that way, and probably like bringing others into the business. And then we use the accountability chart. So the accountability chart is, okay, who does what job? So, and that's been a transition over time. And we'd sort of sit there at our annual meeting and think, well, okay, next, the sheep side of things, you take that over. I'll continue doing the cropping. And then there's been this slow transition of all of those roles. And for me, not being around so much, my role was, more of the marketing and organising stuff, anything I can do from anywhere, basically with a phone call or an email. So that's sort of how that transition has worked there. And that, I can't sort of overstate the importance of that accountability chart, how that sort of really worked in our business. And it's constant communication, and like it's the mentoring that goes on, being, we're no experts in anything, but like, let's just talk through this and let's work through this and not be pig-headed about anything, that we know this is the way, and be open to change, and because other people do things differently. And yeah, so I've had some really big mental shifts about, I was probably a bit of a perfectionist. You've got to let go of that, because it's not going to be done the same. But like, as long as the main things are getting done the same, your core business is things are getting done in a timely manner. That's the really important things. I'm really emphasising that, because everyone does things differently, and being okay with that. So it's certainly been a challenge for me at different times, and coming up with this, I think, oh, geez, who am I if I'm not going to be the Tim the farmer? Like, what's that? But I think the key thing there is actually opening yourself up to have the space to think about it. I remember doing a coaching call with Tracy, and she said, well, it's okay. Give yourself the space. And that's what everyone worries about, is actually giving themselves the space. And like, if you had asked me 10 years ago that I'll be doing this role now, with FOA, benchmarking, like, I seriously couldn't turn a computer on 5 years ago, probably. So, and Cheryl just did all that stuff. I was no good at it. So, and people say, I can't use a computer. Well, I've actually had to learn, and I've learned it, and I know what I need to, what I have to do. And that's, as far as that goes, probably. But, and it's actually not that hard. So, being open to doing new things, continual learning, upskilling yourself, getting new mentors in different areas. Like Greg, I always had this dream of having Greg as my mentor. And I thought, no, he's too busy, whatever. Here I'm working side by side with him now. Like, we have amazing conversations. So, it's amazing how things work out sometimes, but giving yourself that space and being, I was listening to this book the other day about the phases of your life that, you work when you're 30, you're full of energy, when you're getting closer to 60. So, I don't have the same energy I did when I was 30, but like, we've brought 30-year-olds into the business and the energy level just goes up 10 times. Like, you just, and it's brilliant, like, to bring energy into your business. So, and we're at different stages. To think I'm still going to work hard at 70 is just, you can't. So, so that's been amazing, bringing fresh energy into the business. And that transition of being open to change and doing other things and learning new things is absolutely key to it. But anything is possible.
Thanks, Tim. So 2 questions for you. How is it that sowing, seeding, and then harvest or reaping is happening without you this year? And how is it? Have you lost anything for resourcing that differently? How is that? And then secondly, how is it now to have time and space to be able to help others?
Yeah, well, this was the first year I wasn't home for harvest, so that felt funny, to be honest. Like, for me, I was home for a couple of days and drove the header and helped out, but like, I guess because I've got this other role with FOA now, that's got busier and busier, so which has been amazing for me, that I've had to learn all the analytics side of it, and that's been great. So that's been a change, and I won't be home for seeding this year, so it's the first time ever. So, but I've got plenty of things to keep my mind busy. And I have 100% confidence in the team at home to get the job done, and I just love the way they think and go about it. And so, 100% confidence is in the team, and putting trust in people is absolutely key. Putting trust, they're doing the best they can. We've got to make sure they're resourced and, got everything they need. And that's sort of part of our role. But, we're there. We're only a phone call away, being able to mentor any questions anytime. So that is the key to putting trust in people, really, that we can allow that to happen and feel okay about it. Like, I just don't get phone calls anymore, which is great. So,
Thanks, Tim. Cheryl, how's the journey been for you, that process of letting go?
Yeah, I think as Tim was talking just then, I was just thinking, like, a big part of it is just shifting your mindset around, us doing it all, to enjoying watching business partners coming through. And often I feel like in family farms there's that real, it's almost competitive, like, and then there's that real loss of identity and all that sort of stuff, whereas for me, I'm just loving watching them have their journey and what an amazing job they're doing. And so that's made it really easy for me. I feel like, me stepping back has allowed them to do that. And, I was ready to step back. I was looking forward to a new challenge. And this summer just gone has been so much fun. Like, I often think now, a lot of people miss out on that because they're so fixed on the farmers and they have to stay on the farm and they miss all those fun things. Like, we've just had 3 weeks in New Zealand bike riding as a family. Our kids all came with us or they dragged us along. we were at the back. And a summer of catching up with friends and, just doing lots of fun things. And we can see so many opportunities going forward of just a very fun life. So I feel sad for the people that don't give themselves the opportunity to experience that. There are, there's lots out there that you can do.
I guess just to expand on helping other people, Hutch, like the saying, you learn, like your phases of your life, you learn, you earn, you return. I really feel like we're in this return stage of our life, like now that we're with FOA and helping other people. It's a really, really rewarding. It's a job basically, but I'll do it for free. I shouldn't tell you that. But it's a really rewarding thing just to help other people, and to if we can share a little bit of our journey, we've learnt things along the way with farming and business. If we can help people on their journey, like, it's such a rewarding thing to be able to do that. It's amazing.
Thanks, Tim. Wonderful comment. One more question for you both. What is a freedom farm? Because I think that's a little bit misunderstood. And what is it to have one?
Yeah, I guess it is one of those terms, you're right, it is misunderstood. We get some people saying to us, no, we don't want a freedom farm, we like farming. Like, in our situation, that's what we've done, is stepped, quite a way back definitely back from operations. And so freedom for us is going out there and doing other things, whereas for other people, freedom can just be taking the risk out of the business. So it can just be, let's make sure this business is not as reliant on us as it currently is, so that if something happened to anyone in the business would continue on. And also just providing a little bit more flexibility in the business. So, if you do want to go to the kids' sports days, you can go and do that. Or, if you do want to go and have a family holiday, you can do that without being totally stressed out, the week before and the weeks after. So there's different levels of what that looks like, or means different things to different people. But, for us, it has just been amazing. It's, the freedom that we have now, it's hard to explain because, Tim, I used to say he froths at the mouth about farming. He's just so passionate about farming. And I never, ever would have pictured that, freedom for us would have meant stepping completely out of operations of the farm. But that's just gradually evolved over time, and it's kind of that thing of just letting go of a little bit, and seeing it's actually not so bad. And for us, the choice was to, gradually step right back. But no, so it's been amazing.
I think Cheryl mentioned there, like, I don't want to finish this on a bad note, but like, if you died tomorrow, like, would the farm continue? And you could think about any person in that business. Like, if Cheryl wasn't there, I didn't know how to do the books. Like, I was stuffed. Is there someone else in the business that knows how to do that? Is there someone else in the business that knows how to run the operations? So to think about it in that way, that if you weren't here tomorrow, and reality is things do happen. So how can we set our business up that we can think about things like that? And whether it is just the bookkeeping side of things or whatever it might be, like, it's a really important thing to think about and have those systems in place that, okay, we've got a whole stop there of, okay, this is how you get into this or whatever it might be. So, so it's just an interesting way to think about it.
It's a really important point. Thank you. That the definition of a successful business is one that is profitable and structured so that it can work without you. Businesses are meant to work for us, not us for them. And so many of us in our industry, we've created a job for ourselves, and our businesses and our farms are completely dependent on us. But we know we've got something that is scalable and can sort of be handed on to future generations when it can work without us. And you're both just such a wonderful example of that. And thank you for just the commitment and the passion that you both show, helping hundreds of farming families across Australia pursue that for them. So really appreciate it. And one last question. If you were to be sitting with someone who might be a few years younger and in chaos and addicted to their farm and feeling a bit stuck as the technical farmer in their business, what's the one tip that you'd give them to make a step forward?
I think it's just coming up with a vision. Like, even if you think it's impossible, like, it's amazing. And we were there. That's where we were, like, back a few years ago. And we sort of put this vision out there and thinking that's just ridiculous, like, type thing. So, and it's amazing how if you get that right mindset of things, and all of a sudden you're open to all these other opportunities, and just put that vision out there, even if you think it's crazy. But it's amazing how things might fall in place, and it takes time. Like, if you put a 10-year vision out there and set it, for that, we're talking about the BHAG, like, that's good. Like, you think, oh, how's that going to happen? But then if you look back 10 years where you were 10 years ago and think how much has happened in that last 10 years, it's amazing what's happened. So it is surprising how that works. So I think for me, it's just have a vision in your mind and put it down on paper, forget about it, and then start working through that. And it's amazing the opportunities that do present themselves.
Thanks, Tim. Cheryl?
I think I often say, and I've said it already, is that the mindset piece is the foundation of all of this. So I think my tip would be to really put some real effort into that side of it. We've got an awesome deep dive coming up, which is very focused on the mindset side of things. I feel like, when you can get your mind right and control your thoughts and focus on what you have control over, all of those things, everything else just falls into place after that. So that would be my tip.
But Cheryl saying that, it sounds so simple when you say that, but you still have to do the work in the background. There is work that you have to do. It's no magic bullets, but that what Cheryl's piece, what she said, is really important. But you still, magic doesn't happen. You still have to do the work, but have a reason to do it.
Tim and Cheryl, you just make such a great example of a husband and wife team that are aligned to a common goal and went about pursuit of that goal with incredible determination. One of the things I love about the Farm Owner Academy program in our community is that it's 50-50, isn't it? Husband, wife, or men and women, and that's quite unique. And I think what it honours and really tries to support is the impact that both husband and wife and son and daughter and in-laws and outlaws, the impact that they can have when they come together, get aligned and work together as a family team. What would your comment be on the power of families and what they can achieve when they come together and focus on a common goal?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there. I love walking into that room at a deep dive and just seeing a room full of, it is 50-50, and that's very unique in agriculture to walk into that room. And I think one of the great things about Farm Owners Academy is, sometimes the female partners in the business are very underutilised, and Farm Owners Academy sometimes can help them to see where their skills can be utilised. And then the power of that when, suddenly they're involved as well, and it ends up being the two of them or the whole family becoming aligned on a vision and working together towards the goal, the power is exponential in that. The support they can provide each other, and that a lot of the women bring so many skills and look at things in a different way. And that just hasn't really been captured so much in the past, I suppose. I love seeing people come into it. The wife sort of comes along thinking, they'll just have a bit of a listen in, and next minute they might even end up CEO of the business, because that's where their skill set lies. I just think that's incredibly powerful.
Tim, what's your comment, and where would your project be if Cheryl hadn't have been the integral part of it that she has been?
I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now, Hutch. I can guarantee you that. I'd probably still be head down, tail up, out in the paddock. So, I think we've been a really great team. I feel over time, Cheryl's very analytical, and she's always been a bit of a natural coach, asking me questions constantly all the time. So, it's been an absolute team effort, and we have been on the same page, all the way through with the same vision. And I always say sort of 1 + 1 = 3. It makes it so much more powerful if we're all on the same page. And for us now to work together, doing this role is like a dream. To be able to do that together and share our experiences together and help other people. It's pretty special.
It can make it very fun too when you're all focused in the same direction. We've got a little quote on our fridge that says, love is not gazing into each other's eyes, it's being focused together in the same direction. Yeah, it's a very fun journey when you can do that.
Thanks, Cheryl. I don't want to overgeneralise, but farming has been a male-dominated industry, and a lot of the training and a lot of the courses are quite sort of male-dominated. And I just want a shout-out to the incredible impact that the women in agriculture across our community are having on the success and the growth of so many farming families and farming businesses across Australia. Thank you both for your comment. Tim and Cheryl, always incredible to connect. Thank you for all that you're doing in support of our community, and have a great time in Port Fairy, and all the best over the next 6 months. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Hutch.
Thanks, Hutch.
And so there you have it, folks. What a wonderful conversation about the impact that our farm tours are having on our FOA members and on the results that our members continue to get. Well done, everyone. But also wonderful to connect with Tim and Cheryl and hear their story about how they've brought their farm under management, enrolled their team, achieved significant growth, consistently played in the top 10% of our industry on most benchmarks, profitability, return on equity, return on assets managed, how they've intensified their operating system to really drive performance, and how they've been creative in giving away ownership in the business that operates their farm to key members of their team as a way of inspiring that outcome. Incredible, Tim and Cheryl. You're such valued members of our community. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for your insights. And to everyone listening, I hope you found that just as valuable as I did. Take care, everyone. Thank you, and bye for now.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Profitable Farmer podcast by Farm Owners Academy. If you're new to this show, be sure to follow us. If you've been a long-time listener, let your friends know about us or come continue the conversation in the Profitable Farmer Facebook group. All the best as you grow your business and create your freedom farm. Until next time, keep being incredible.